Okay, so we have a really great understanding of the definitions of the types of text structures. So that's going to be awesome. We get a great start. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit deeper into it and look at how it's set up and then how we can use it when you're trying to comprehend informational text as well as when you're writing, because a lot of times your teachers will ask you to write something but use a descriptive structure or use a cause and effect. So this lady has made this cute little PowerPoint presentation, and as we're going along, what we're going to do is we're going to look at each one. Description is the first one she's going to talk about, so we're going to make our own little text structure remember box, anchor chart for us. So she uses 5 soccer passages to explore text structure. So she says, first, why don't we discuss what we mean when we talk about text structures? And you kind of already told me about that. You already told me that text structures are used in nonfiction writing. So we know nonfiction is what kind of text? True or informational, right? Mm-hmm. Good. And text structure refers to how the author organizes. So you use the word build, and build's a great analogy because that's what another thing I was looking up said. It's how you build it or how you organize the information that they want to present. Slide her up. So why is it important? Because when you understand how the information is organized, it helps you to understand or comprehend what you read. All right? So authors use text structures to organize their nonfiction writing and help readers learn and retain what they've read. Whoops. So let's look at the 5 passages. So we're starting off with one, and I like about this is it's also going to show us organizers. So description or a topical. So when you're reading, there's sometimes you can have questions that you can ask. So this little paper right here, these little pieces are going to give us some questions to ask when you're reading. So when you read, you know, sometimes you'll read something, you'll say, I wonder about this or I wonder about that. So when you're doing descriptive a text structure, you can ask, is this piece of writing describing something? So what is being described? What is the main idea? What's important to remember about the topic? How does the author organize the details? Which details are the most important and how do they fit together? So we're looking at the story web up here that they have, or web. So whatever our main idea would be in the middle, and then what we're thinking about when we're reading is how are we going to fill in these detail boxes? So they're going to give us an example here. Descriptive details go on the outside. So if we have a lot of different passages or paragraphs in our passage, they might talk about different details and descriptions in each different paragraph. So I want you to think about that. So what they're going to do is we're going to have this one to read. So this is a descriptive text structure. So go ahead and you can read it either out loud or to yourself. Which one you want to do?
In my head.
In your head, okay. Can you read it okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You tell me when you're done.
Finished.
Get it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have 3 paragraphs in this text, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And did you notice each paragraph was the same or different?
Different.
Different. Okay. So in this paragraph, this descriptive text, they're actually describing what? The game of
How soccer's played.
how soccer is played. And in each one, there's a different topic sentence, okay, with the details as well. So let's do this. Let's put this one together real quick. We know that our text structure is going to be description, which I think I put on the bottom. All right, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here. We already took care of that. Okay, we know what kind of questions to read. How did you know that this was descriptive? Just by starting out, just by reading it. What clues were there that told you that this was a descriptive writing?
It was explaining how
Explaining how.
to
Okay.
play it.
Okay. It wasn't, that's where it's a little bit tricky, because sometimes when we say how you do it, it might be a sequence, like first you have to do this, next you have to do that. They didn't have any of those kind of words in there, did they?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look and see what we've got going on. So this is going to be my first one. So on this, it says, what makes that piece have a descriptive structure? Well, we were talking, you were right, we were talking about soccer. So the first paragraph talks about how the game was played. The second paragraph talked about the rules, and the third paragraph talked about the clothing and equipment, right? So if we look up to here, whoops, where is it at? All right, so the first one talks about how you play the game. Players move the ball down the field, kick it into their goal, and it talks about how the goalie stands in front and tries to block the shots, and if the team gets the ball, they score a point. So that's only about how the game is played. The second paragraph talked about the rules, and that was in the first paragraph, correct? Or the first sentence. So you're not allowed to touch the ball. You're throwing the ball into the field as a goalie. You're not allowed to tackle other players and the referee. So just in any good paragraph, usually we have at least 3 good details. And on this one and this one, there are 3 good details. And then the last one, these are the items that you need to play the game of soccer. So a ball, a large area of grass, and goals. And then what the players have to wear. So lots of details describing it. So it's a descriptive. So when we're looking at these, one of the things that we see are signal words. So signal words are words that when you're reading, you can go ahead and pick out and say, it says for example, or for instance, or in addition, or in this case, how it listed all of the different things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then this is a little graphic organizer, and that's a nice visual to remember that if you're doing a descriptive writing, you're going to have your main idea in the middle and then the details on the outside, right? Okay, so that is going to be our first one. I'm going to take the coat off. All right, does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if I give you a piece of writing a little bit later, you're going to take this information, you're going to be able to say, okay, this is descriptive writing. Why? Because I can visualize this, I can look for signal words, and as I'm reading, I'm thinking about these ideas. All right, so we're going to the next one. Next one, and then there are 5 of them. Where are we at? Okay, next one right here. It's going to be sequence. So sequence writing. I think you remember this. This is one of the ones we teach like early on. So sequence writing is telling something in the order of events. So it could be like the first, next, finally. You know how I remember writing those? Like if you have a recipe, that's a great one that has to go in sequence. You can't put the cake in the oven unless you mix the ingredients, right? So a sequence one. So let's read the sequence one. Oops, maybe not. Here we go. Back to soccer again. This time I'm going to make you read out loud, only because I made you do it last time. Last year, remember? Go ahead.
Soccer is a game that has been played for numerous years. In fact, many people believe that it began in England over 800 years ago. About 200 years ago, in the early 1800s, boys in England played a sport like soccer, but they called it football. However, each school made up their own rules. In 1863, a group of players met and wrote the official rules for soccer. Soccer started spreading to other countries in 1904. An international group called FIFA formed to make sure that every team around the world followed the same soccer rules. Today, soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world.
Okay, so what are some, when we're looking at sequence text structures, here are some of the things. See those sequence words right there? What, even if it's not even sequence words, what in here would tell you that we're doing something in a sequence? What is the biggest thing that stands out to you that tells you that's a sequence? What do you think?
Use the dates.
The use of the dates, absolutely. They don't have that on the signal words a lot of times, but when you have the use of dates like that, that's going to be a clue to you that this is something that's telling me the sequence of how something happened. So other things, beginning, first, next, then, and last, remember those from school. So those are all other sequence signal words. So you've already identified what the sequence is, you've identified what the definition is, signal words, and here are some things to think about as you're reading. You kind of could tell as soon as we started seeing those dates, and those dates were in order, that was in a sequential order. So now we ask ourselves, what does it explain? So this was explaining what? What was this text explaining?
When soccer started.
Right, so how soccer kind of evolved or turned into the game that it is today. Why do you think it's important to put those in order?
Just so that people don't get lost.
Okay, and it makes sense. You want to know how it began, and then what little change happened that turned the next piece, and then what was the next little change that happened. We already said the steps in this one are organized by the dates. Okay, we didn't use these first, next, then, and last, or beginning and end type things. How does this author go from one event to the next? What do you think he did? What will we say as you're reading along?
He used the transition words.
Okay, yep. And then I think most importantly, it goes back to those dates for him, because look what he did in 1863, in 1904. He kind of went to the next level. Okay. All right. So this is going to be our sequential one. So if we were going to go ahead and retell this or put this into order, we would use a graphic organizer that would be a sequential one, and then we could just put the dates in, kind of like a timeline on this one would be a great one, right? Okay. And if we were going to retell this, put a summary, you would also want to put it in the order in which it happened, correct? Because just like it helped you understand, that's how you would help somebody else understand. All right, so let's see what the next one's going to be. Compare. Whoops, let's go back to how they looked at it. Here's exactly what they did, kind of like we said in the timeline. What makes that piece have a sequence structure? Talked about it started 800 years ago. It used to be called football. 1863, the rules were written, and in 1904, it became a group was formed, and it gave the official rules for all people that played, and it became the actual game that we know today. All right. So if you were going to retell this story, those would be important facts to pull out and to put in sequence. All right. Compare and contrast. Do you remember what this one is all about? Comparing and contrasting?
The different topics.
Okay.
And
so
what are different and alike.
So we take two things, and what we're going to do is we're going to compare them, see what's alike, and contrast them and see what's different. Remember using a Venn diagram. Okay. So let's look at this. I keep losing my little spot on here. Oh, that star must be where we're at. Oops, no, way down here. Okay. So this is comparing and contrasting two different things. So when we read the very first sentence, soccer and football are alike in a few ways, but have many differences. What two words in there tell you right now that that's going to be compare and contrast?
Alike and different.
Alike and different, right. Okay, you finish up from here. One
similarity is that there are 11 players on the field at once, one at a time in both soccer and football. They are both popular sports in the United States, and they both require use of a ball and a field. The differences between soccer and football are numerous. Soccer players use a ball shaped like a sphere, whereas football players use a ball that has two ends in the soccer. Two ends in ends. In soccer, players are trying to send the ball into the goal. However, in football, players are trying to get the ball in the end zone through the goalpost. The rules are also different in soccer. Players are rarely allowed to touch the ball with their hands, while football players frequently touch the ball. Football players are allowed to tackle, but this is the forbidden in soccer. These are just a few of the ways that soccer and football are different. Nonetheless, most people agree that both soccer and football are fun sports.
So they had a lot of things that were the same and a lot of things that were different. So if we put together a Venn diagram on this, you could see we could go through and we could fill this in easily, couldn't we? So a lot of the words that they came up with are signal words. Similar, different. Those were the two I think I heard the most. Okay? And so when we're reading a compare contrast, which I think looking at that very first sentence kind of triggers your mind to say, oh, we're going to have two things that we're going to compare and contrast. We think to ourselves, what's being compared and contrasted, or being compared? How are they alike and how are they different? Which are the most important similarities and differences? So as you're reading through that, and you're going to have to write a report on it, let's say, what are the most important things that you're going to pull out to tell your reader? Okay? Does the author tell us about the topic using a clustered approach, which means he puts all the details in one and then all the details about the other? Or does he alternate? Let's figure out, what is he doing in this? Is he telling us all of the things at one time, or is he saying this, then that, this, then that? So when we look at this one, back and forth between topics. So let's look in here. One similarity is that there are 11 players on the field at one time in both soccer and football. They're both popular sports in the United States, and they both require the use of a ball. So that's telling me how they are same or different?
Alike.
Alike, correct. Now he's switching over. The differences are numerous. He talks about the different shapes of the ball. They talk about the players getting the ball either between the goal or into the end zone. But then he goes up to this, and he says the rules are different. So this is another difference. Talks about this. So what do you think? I'm looking at it. What do you think? It looks like he's got his differences down here and his similarities
Up at the top.
up at the top. But look at the very last sentence. Nonetheless, most people agree that both soccer and football are fun. So he kind of like he almost made a sandwich with it. He put similarities, differences, and then similarities. Okay? So these are the things to think about when you're doing compare and contrast. All right. It's all coming to you. All right, so let's see what we got here. Looking at them, this is what they did. What makes it a compare and contrast? He talked about on the soccer, these were the only things that related to soccer, the differences. These were the differences with football, and both of those, all three, were the ones that were similar. Okay. Next one, I bet you remember this one. What is this one? Okay, so you're going to, when you're reading a cause and effect, you're going to say, is it explaining why something happened? All right. So, looking at this, or is it explaining what effects will happen? All right. So let's look at this one. I'll let you read this. We're switching over. Oh nope, we're still on soccer. Ready? Go ahead. Cause and effect for soccer. You're my reader.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you read.
Head injuries account for between 4% and 22% of all soccer injuries. These can result in concussions. A concussion may occur when someone's head strikes an object. The most common cause of a concussion during soccer is when the player's head strikes another player's head. The second most common cause of soccer-related concussion is when the ball is kicked from close range and it hits a player's head. Heading the ball does not cause head injuries as long as it's done properly.
Do you know what heading the ball is?
Knocking it.
Knocking it with your head. Do you play soccer?
No, I used to.
Oh, okay. So this is probably all not good, not new news to
I
you.
was young.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So looking at our text structure for cause and effect, you had that definition correct. Here are some signal words that connect those two the cause to the effect. And then when we look at this, you guys seen one of these before? A cause and effect chart? Okay. So this one would be a cause with 3 effects. Sometimes there's just one to one ratio as well. So cause and effect, and when you identify that this is what kind of text structure it is, you're going to be reading and thinking to yourself, what was the reason it happened? What was the result or consequence of how something happened, or what happened? How did the cause lead to the effect? Were there several causes and several effects? If there were people involved, how did they react to what happened? So, makes sense with what we're talking about, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these are all coming back to you, aren't they? All right, so looking at this. This is a cause with an effect with two. So one of the cause is two players hitting head, a ball hitting someone's head when kicked at close range, and both of those causes equal the effect of having head injuries. Okay? Last one, problem and solution, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is this piece telling me about how a problem can be solved? So let's read the next one. Go ahead, you're on.
Professional soccer players head the ball thousands of times during their careers. Doctors are unsure whether players that repeatedly head the ball are more susceptible to later head injuries. Therefore, many parents and coaches are choosing to take a step and protect young players. What are some possible protections? Make sure children learn how to properly head the ball. Use the appropriate size ball for the age of the players. Smaller balls are less likely to cause head injuries. Make a no heading the ball rule for younger players.
Okay, so when you played, did you have to head the ball?
Mm.
But you knew what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so problems and solutions. So what is the problem that's happening in here?
Most kids are getting head injuries.
Right, and what is the solution?
Parents and coaches are making protection rules.
Awesome. That's a great way to summarize that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, key words here: problems and issues and solutions and causes. The word because. Okay. When you're thinking, just like you just did it. What was the problem? Well, you were probably thinking that when you were reading it, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what caused the problem? Is there a solution? Who worked on the solution? Who was doing the solution in this part, in the story?
The parents
The
and
parents.
the coaches.
Right. And were there more than one solutions? Was there more than one solution in this?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And was the solution mentioned as a possibility, or has it already happened?
Already happened.
Already happened. Yep. Awesome. See? Man, you are rocking it. Ain't no summer loss here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when we look at this one, again, you were correct. Problem was the head injuries during soccer, and these were the possible solutions, the ones that you listed. All right. So we are not going to practice on this. We are going to practice on this. So what you're going to do is I am going to give you, these are very short, not long like this.
Mm-hmm.
These little, kind of like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. So I want you to read the text structure or the passage and then tell me what you think the text structure is going to be. So these are our choices. Remember all of our choices.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use any pieces of this that'll help you out. All right. There's our choices, our clue words, visuals. You might be thinking that in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And the question. Are you ready for the magic?
Mm-hmm.
Ready. And go. Actually, you can stick them right on which one you think. You didn't even read that, did you?
I read
You
it
are-
when you were
Oh,
filling it
you are fast, man. And then we'll check them. Some of them are a little tricky. One's a tricky one. If you're not sure, you can put it aside and talk about it. Put that into the not sure pile.
Mhm.
All right, I'll give you the rest of those. let's see how we did. So, problem and solution. I know some of them you just like that. Okay, since we ran out of bread, we went to the grocery store to buy more. That makes sense, right? We have a problem. We are out of bread. How do we solve it? We go to the grocery store. Could that be a second one also? What else could that one be? I think this one could go under 2. Sequence. Okay, so that first you ran out of bread and then you went to the grocery store. What about cause and effect?
Yeah.
Could be that too, right? So this one's a trickier one because it can go under all 3 of those if you really wanted to think about it. Okay, so we know the problem there. Puppies sometimes chew on shoes. One solution is always put the shoes away in a closet. What was the clue word in there that gave it to you?
One solution.
One solution, yep, using the clue word. Awesomeness. All right, cool. Let's look at the next one. Cause and effect. So, a hurricane blew the roof off a house. As a result, the family had no place to live. What was the clue word in there?
As a result.
Awesome. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Compare and contrast. Animals sleep different amounts. Donkeys sleep around 3 hours a day, unlike pythons who sleep about 18 hours a day. What 2 animals are we comparing?
Donkeys and pythons.
Okay, and then we talked about that was more of a difference than a similarity, correct? Okay, this one. Driving on icy roads can be very dangerous. For this reason, many drivers put special snow tires on their cars to avoid sliding. Am I comparing, what 2 things am I comparing?
Driving on icy roads and the tires.
Okay, let's think about this one. Driving on icy roads can be dangerous, so we put on special cause and effect. Yeah, I think cause and effect. Awesome. Cool. All right. What about this one? This is one you didn't even read this whole one, did you? Because what word told you on this one?
This is comparing kittens and lions.
Right, and you can see that in the very first sentence because it says how they're similar. Awesome. Some of them can be tricky, but some of them are pretty straightforward. So let's look at these here. Alligators are large reptiles. American alligators specifically can weigh up to 1,000 pounds. Most of them live in Florida and Louisiana. What made you think that was a descriptive?
They were telling us about alligators.
Giving you all kinds of facts about alligators. Okay, there are many signs to tell when a dog is angry. For instance, it might growl and show its teeth, describing an angry dog. Awesome. All right, last one. Let's see how you do. Oh, and then we gotta look at this one that we're stuck on. All right, this one you didn't take, but no time to do either. What made you know that this was a sequence?
It was in order of how to bake cookies.
What clue word do you see? I see about 3 of them.
First, then final.
Awesome. Okay. To make a great snowball. Same thing with this one.
First, and then.
I think next one's in there too. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then this one. This one. If you have trouble naming the 5 Great Lakes, then think of the word homes. It stands for Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. So, what makes you think this is a sequence? I can kind of see why you're thinking. Those there, okay. So, they're telling you if you have this problem, then try to think of homes. Cause and effect? Or
no,
what was the other one?
Compare and contrast.
Think again.
Problem and solution.
Okay, so if you have a trouble, then do this, okay? That's good though. You did really good. Okay, let's look at this last one. This is one. The manatee population is threatened because many careless boaters drive too fast and hit them with propellers. So, the manatee population is threatened because, look at that word, because. Yeah, absolutely. When we see because, that I always tell the kids, remember, it happens because, the cause. Awesome. All right, man, you are rocking it. Okay, last thing for you to do. And this would be so simple because you already got this down. We have, what was that? Look at my answer key. All right, so you have 5 short passages. You have to decide, is it going to be, they're not using the word, I'm not doing the chronological one. So sequence, description, problem, solution, cause, effect, and compare and contrast. You just need to tell me which one you think it is. This is not a choice because I took that one out. Okay? Pick which one you want to start with. Circle your answers and let's see if you're going to pass the big test. What word made you think that?
It was comparing Androids and iPhones.
Yep, I saw when you clicked on it. Okay. And if you're stuck on one and you want to go ahead and go back to it too, we can do the same thing like we did with the other one. All right, let's check it out. All right, I'm going to go from the bottom up.
That one was the one I was most...
This one was the one that was the most confusing. Okay, so let's look at this one. To bake a loaf of bread, it's important to follow a series of steps. Okay, right there, series of steps would tell us, okay, good, awesome. This one, monarch butterflies are some of the most well-known types of butterflies, and then it goes on to tell us all the facts about butterflies, correct? Features and their colors and their sizes. Awesome. Okay, sequence. So we have these three. This is the one that was confusing?
No, this one.
Oh, this one. Okay, let's look at this one. Car crashes are extremely dangerous. In the past, not all cars had seat belts. As highways began to spread across the state, more and more people getting hurt. The government made a new law requiring everyone to wear a seatbelt in order to keep people safe. As a result, there were far fewer deaths on the road, and it was estimated that seatbelts saved about 14,000 lives by 2015. Okay, so this one, we have car crashes that are super dangerous, and people were not all had seatbelts, so they,
I thought that because...
That's okay. I had to think it through too. But you see how that one, I can see how you would think sequence because it told us how it happened, in what order, but more importantly, they're saying, hey, this is the problem and this is how we solved it. So cool. All right, let me look at this one. Cane toads came from South America, but they were brought to Australia in the 1930s. The reason people brought them was to help control the beetles that were harming sugar crops. Since the toads would eat the beetles. Unfortunately, their introduction to the country had some unexpected side effects. The toads began reproducing quickly and the population spread out of control. They began harming Australia's ecosystem and were thought of as a big problem. Okay, so.
Oh, I kind of think it's sequence.
Sequence? I'm thinking, I'm going to double check it, but here, what about this? We have I see where you thought problem solution, because in the beginning, that's what happened. They had a problem, and the solution was to bring the toads over, correctly? But because they brought the toads over, what happened?
They were eating all the crops.
Right. So they got out of control, and now it's a problem. So what about this one? Yeah. Okay, so I can see these are a little bit more confusing or a little bit more difficult. So we'll look at those. All right, last one. People tend to be very loyal to their favorite brands of technology. You were right on this one right away. And I think when I saw you, when you were reading, I could tell they said they had several things in common. I think that's when I saw your pencil go like, oh, I got this one. All right, awesome. Okay, so those, we just have to look for the tricky ones that can go either way a little bit. Awesome. All right. Peace out to the camera.